Hi, I'm Andrew Perry, and this is the Ion Pioneer. One of the things I like to do with the Ion Pioneer is to talk to regular people and see the different ways that people kind of fight against the establishment, against corporatism, and kind of bring back people power to the United States. That's why today I'm talking with Elizabeth Moreira. She is a candidate for the 38th Congressional District, and she'll be running head-to-head in a primary against incumbent Linda Sanchez. Elizabeth,
Hi, thank you, Andrew.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, to start, I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I'm a mom, mother of two beautiful girls. I'm a hospitality manager. I also co-author children's STEM books. I'm pretty much a regular person. I helped out locally a lot with school site councils and PTA, things like that. But other than that, I don't really feel that I'm different than many other people.
What got you interested in politics?
I think that's actually it's a really interesting question because I think I got interested in politics when I think the whole world woke up about politics. So my first initial inspiration was when Bernie Sanders started running. I think before that I had a large mentality that politics were just more for regular people. They were very elitist and were something that rich people really cared about, and rightfully so. Now that I know more about it, I feel that that's kind of exactly what it's been. But when Bernie Sanders ran, it was actually the first time I think many of us realized, hey, this is our nation too. This is something that should be for people, and not just profit. And so I really got motivated to get more involved and see where I could help. I helped with some of our city council elections. I helped with our most recently we just had a student school board election, and I was again trying to be a part of it as much as I could, acting as president of PTA at a local school, and then also on school site councils as well too. So it's all been things that I've been able to really help with in the community. I really wanted to give back to my community as a whole on a wider spectrum, which is kind of how I started looking into our district office.
Nice. Linda Sanchez, she's an incumbent, and she's been in the office for a long time. What's your strategy to compete?
So Linda, you're right. She's a 10-term, 20-year incumbent, and almost entirely in this district. And the sad part is that almost nobody knows who she is. I can't tell you how often I ask people if they have heard of Linda Sanchez, and their answer is no, despite how long she's been there. So my strategy is actually, I'm actually going not for democratic approval. I'm not going for bigger groups or larger organizations. I'm going for people that I actually care about in this, that represent this district, that live in this district, the people that actually need the representation. So my number one strategy is to first make connections with people actually in our community, groups in our community, really getting to know people that are actually out here. I don't go chase organizations or deal with things that are out there. Second thing is, I think people need to be aware that Linda Sanchez doesn't live in California. She doesn't live in our district. She lives in Connecticut. She actually rents a house out in Whittier, which I actually just found out was still collecting rent on even during the pandemic. So, when a lot of people are hurting, it's kind of sad to see someone making a profit off of rent still. So. That's a big one for me, is if you don't live in the state, you don't give back to the economy, and you don't give back to the community you're supposed to represent, then why are you representing us? You're not participating in our culture or in our district in general. And then the third thing would be, one of my number one issues is universal health care, really trying to get people, especially people who haven't been able to ever afford it, health care. And Linda Sanchez's number one donor is Big Pharma in the healthcare industry. So this is something that I think people should be aware of. Very little of her funding comes from California, let alone people. So it's kind of sad reality, but I think once people get to know that, it's going to be easier to see why she shouldn't be in office.
Yeah, you mentioned healthcare. What are some other parts of your platform?
Well, there's quite a few things. Some of them are, it's funny that I say there's quite a few things because when is there not quite a few things in politics? But so some of the bigger ones that are specifically related to California is, there's infrastructure that's desperately needed out here, especially research into ways we can start minimizing these wildfires. There's just devastation continuing to plague our state consistently. We've got ongoing droughts. There's a lot of areas we can attack in the infrastructure area. Housing, we've got extremely unaffordable housing. It's really depressing that I was actually saying, I've got 2 degrees, I work a full-time job and I still can't afford a house out here. And I think a lot of people feel that way. It's $500,000 for a 2-bedroom, tiny little house in the middle of nowhere. And so I think more affordable housing is definitely something that we need to focus on. I'm also really supportive of trying to end things like the Right to Work Act, and then fighting back against people who are trying to really attack unions, which is why I'm so glad I found you and I've learned so much about them, because the PRO Act is something that's at a standstill that we desperately need. So that's one of my biggest it's one of my biggest pushes, is that we're not making progress while people who are fighting progress are making progress. And coming from an industry where we don't have representation, it's really tough to see that people who do have that are having it stripped away, because I know what it's like on the other side.
How is your campaign being run? Are you taking any money from special interests or anything like that?
Zero special interest financing. I am 100% funded by people. It's harder when you're funded only by people, but it is what it is. Not everybody can afford to give a whole lot, and I am so proud to only accept money from actually, individuals, people who are willing to talk to me, people who have a conversation. I don't accept any money from corporations, any interest groups, super PACs, nothing. I don't really even condone the idea of a lot of where our money comes from in Congress. And so for me, it's really important that my campaign had integrity. And so even though it is kind of more of a struggle, I have no problem doing the hard work if it means that my campaign leads with that integrity.
So a change of topic, what are some of your thoughts on the labor movement and unions in general?
Yeah, so kind of like I mentioned, I feel when I come from an industry that doesn't allow unions, and I literally, when I first became a manager in the hospitality industry, restaurant industry specifically, there was such a stigma around unions. They used to scare managers that if employees wanted to unionize, management was fired, because that meant that we weren't leading correctly, and that meant that there was something wrong, and it was just a scare tactic. And when you see that from the inside, you realize there's a reason they're trying to scare people away from it. And so the more I've learned, the more I realize that this is something people do need. They need to be able to have things like collective bargaining and that kind of protection, against wrongdoings in companies. Everyone's been with a company, I am positive, that has not always treated employees equally, or the way they should have been treated, or even had a good communication policy to where they were able to really communicate if there were issues going on in the workplace. So my mindset towards unions has really grown. I feel that we are going in a very backwards direction in this country in general, and even more so in the state. As I mentioned earlier, initiative possibly, being on the ballot in 2022 to end unions altogether is just really kind of it's kind of a wake-up call that there's no protection for employees right now. People do not seem to care about what employees are going through, what workers are going through. They want to protect the people that make the most money, not the people that make it for them.
If anyone happens to hear smacking in the background, there's a karate class in the room behind us. So let's just say that you beat the odds and you win the election. What do you do what does the first week in office look like?
My first week in office is actually, it looks like a lot of calls to the people in this district. I think a big part of what happens when people get elected and move into office is they lose touch with where they came from. And it is my number one goal not to lose touch with this district. So I've actually given a lot of thought about this, and one of the main things I really feel is that I want to have a presence here. I want to make sure that people know that I'm still here. I'm approachable. You can get a hold of me. I don't want to be one of those representatives that don't return their constituents' calls or don't return their messages. And I want to make sure that my first week looks like reaching out to my district and finding out where I can start, what I can do at a federal level that can actually make a difference here.
This is okay. What if during the election, kind of like the Nina Turner situation, when like the big wig politicians and the lobbyists, they all kind of rally behind Linda Sanchez? Have you ever thought about like what can be done to counter something like that?
There's so much money involved when something corrupt needs to be done. For me, I have no doubt that Linda Sanchez could definitely raise some kind of money, especially have the Democratic backing and all that. Matter of fact, I'm strongly opposed to a two-party system that even alienates people that are third-party candidates from even having a chance, or nonpartisan. It's sad the way our system works. And it was sad to see that happen to Nina Turner, because she too had a huge amount of support, but it shows you that even organizations on the other side, it doesn't matter how much backing you have. At the end of the day, it's what the people have to say. And there is corrupt messaging out there, and all I can do, honestly, if that ends up happening, is go day by day, door to door, as many people as I need to talk to so they can learn who I am as a person. And hopefully my values will be what people actually resonate with and are able to recognize and communicate, because you can't fight money, but you can hope people are listening. So that's definitely a practical reality.
So, for the record, I guess, like what kind of medical policy do you have on your platform?
So, like, universal health care is one that I feel many people are starting to wake up to and realize how absolutely desperately needed it is, especially this country. I work with the DSA, and one of the things we do is we work for health justice, and the California Nurses Association right now is trying to push CalCare to be a ballot measure which would allow Californians to actually vote on a universal health care system in California. We are currently awaiting the recall to be completed, because Governor Newsom has said that he would sign this act that the CNA and DSA and many other great organizations are pushing forward. So right now, my number one goal is to do whatever I can to support this act, make people aware that this is something that we want to see as a ballot measure, so we can start getting health care in this country.
In your opinion, what is the biggest issue in American politics?
Ooh, there's so many. Number one issue, corruption and dark money. Like, it is. I feel like every time I'm asked this question, I always have to stop and think, like, what is the worst of the worst? But honestly, if there just wasn't all of that just corporatist agenda, special interest money coming in and corrupting the way policy moves, we would have so much better of a society. We would be able to make a lot of changes and impacts in people's lives. And so I know that all the heavy financing behind some of the worst people I think we have elected has really just caused devastation and an inability to move forward.
How can people learn about you or even just donate to the cause?
So Elizabeth Moreira for Congress.com. That's my website. I'm also on Twitter at Congress 2022, and then on Instagram, Moreira for Congress. They all have access to my website. All three of those areas have a way to donate as well.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I am actually having in October my very first fundraiser night, in-person meet and greets, and I would love to meet the community. Anybody that's interested to come out and meet me, just talk politics. We're going to do a margaritas and politics type of afternoon. Cool.
Yeah, and then Ion Pioneer will be there to cover it for sure.
Awesome.
So that's all my questions. I really just want to say, thank you for spending a little time with us, and good luck out there.